It has the social security numbers of all my family members in it, which is useful if I ever want to steal their identity.
Chris Hoofnagel is an attorney and consumer advocate.
The biggest problem that we face comes from what's known as a commercial data broker. Companies like Axiom and Experian and ChoicePoint that amass personal information on you from many different sources, including marketing sources and public records. Just as an example, my ChoicePoint report is over 20 pages long, and I'm only in my 30s. So you can imagine that these companies can amass an incredible amount of information about you, including everywhere you've ever lived, the people with whom you've lived, your spouses, your employment information, what cars you drive, what accidents you've been in, pretty much everything about you that triggers a record. And they can use that information for many different purposes, including ones that might end up in you being denied an opportunity.
Julia Hernandez says that's exactly what happened to her.
I did have a really hard time. I didn't have any way to pay for everyday things like gas, utilities.
A single mother who lives in this Illinois suburb, Hernandez had been offered a job as an executive assistant.
I was made an offer, gave my 2 weeks notice with the current employer that I had, and got a phone call from my new employer. They stated they were no longer going to move forward with the hiring process because of some information that came up on my background check.
So you must have been stunned.
Oh, definitely.
Hernandez found out that a company called Verifications, Inc. had done a background check on her and told her new employer that she had a criminal record for theft and resisting arrest.
You've never done either one of those things.
Right, right.
So Hernandez made a trip to the circuit court's office with the file number for the criminal record listed on the background check.
I went on the computers, looked up the information by the case. Once I got that information, I went to the clerk, asked her to give me the file. She gave me the file, looked through it, and to my surprise, it was by another person's name.
Jacqueline Rivera.
That is correct.
How long did you go without a job?
I went without a job 4 months.
Tough 4 months?
Very tough, very tough. I did go through a depression stage. I did have to go for state assistance to be able to feed my son and myself, which was very, very difficult for me because I've always supported us throughout our lives.
We went to Verifications, Inc. in Minneapolis to find out how all this happened.
When I do my portion on privacy versus the need to know, we will cover it from two different directions, really.
Mary Poquette is the company's chief compliance officer.
When we checked those records, we found 2 convictions. And when we looked at those records, we had a match based upon her name, her full date of birth, her driver's license number, her social security number, and her home address. So certainly there was absolutely no reason to think that these 2 records actually did not belong to her.
I do have one question, though, because I know as well that you did find that there was another name, Jacqueline Rivera, with a different date of birth.
Right.
Same social security number. But why wouldn't that raise a red flag when you have 2 different names and 2 different dates of birth associated with the same conviction?
Certainly it raised a red flag from the standpoint of there is another name associated with this record, but quite frankly, it's not unusual.
Is it really? It's not unusual?
If I